Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to our latest and very special episode of QuickBooks Labs. QuickBooks Labs, a fortnightly vlogcast designed to be the place to learn all about the world of QuickBooks and other accounting software. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Patrick, a chartered accountant and owner of an accounting firm called Boffix, a QuickBooks Certified trainer, and also that QuickBooks chap on YouTube. Join me as the one and only co-host, Ash. Ash, how you doing?
Great, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, thanks. I'm Ash, also bookkeeper / accountant / app developer, helping Intuit train accountants or businesses since 2014. Can't believe where that time has gone. So, Aaron, how does this all work then?
Yeah, great question there, Ash. So fantastic. Well, first of all, we're live to the world on a regular time of 4 p.m. UK time, usually every other Tuesday, and 10 a.m. for the US, as we seem to get quite a lot of US interest at the moment. So if you listen to this back at a later time, then why not think about joining us live? That way you can get involved with the show and ask us anything like the people who are in the comment section at the moment. So if you do have any questions, make sure to put them in those comments section and we'll make sure we look at them at the end of the show. Furthermore, we're now live on live on podcasting services around the globe. So feel free to subscribe on your podcasting service of choice. Ash, what's the event agenda for today's show?
Okay, Aaron, so I think you're going to be taking us through a couple of little bits within the banking in QuickBooks. This is updated. Then I'll take us through a brief overview of the autumn product releases in QuickBooks Online, and then back over to you. I'm very much looking forward to having a demo from you on the Google Sheets integration. And then you can chuck it on back over to me where we've got our tip of the week. I'll take us through a couple of directors' loans scenarios. So, Aaron, over to you then on this banking. What do you want to take us through on the banking?
Yeah, it's going to be a quick and easy one, hopefully. But basically, it's just relating to the fact that we've had some big changes in the world of banking. So let's get the screen up and have a look at it. Okay, so basically what this is all relating to is we spoke about, the last time we were on, about how the banking screen has drastically changed. And with that's come a load of new features. So we're actually really happy with the majority of these changes because it's actually making our life easier. So what we found is that there's ways in which we can speed up processing transactions, and we've been able to make things like rules much more easily than we've ever had before. And overall, the experience has been really, really positive with it. One thing we've learned, though, on the new banking screen, or maybe it was just something that we hadn't been aware of, some changes that have happened beforehand, but it's come into light that anything to do with multi-currency. Now, just to bring into context exactly how multi-currency works and how we work with multi-currency in QuickBooks, basically on the very top right-hand corner up here, when we go into our accounts and settings and under advanced, if you're on a plus version of QuickBooks or higher, then down the bottom here, you have the opportunity to turn on multi-currency. Oh, make sure I jump into it. And just here, look. Now, if you haven't got it turned on, you don't need to worry about it whatsoever. But if you have turned it on, it just gives you extra features within QuickBooks where you get to deal with different multi-currency scenarios. And within this particular demo client here, I've created a USD account, so an American dollar account. Now, the way that QuickBooks is very adamant when you turn on multi-currency is it talks about what's called the home currency. And basically, you get to choose what that home currency is within QuickBooks. Is it pound coins? Is it USD? Is it euros? Whatever you're doing for your particular client or for your business. When you choose that home currency, though, when you move over to multi-currency, it locks it in place. So that's one of the considerations you need to make before you actually move over to multi-currency. What we found, though, is if you've put in a bank account that isn't in the home currency, then you actually start to lose a bit of functionality. And it's about being aware of this. So, first of all, just like before, if you add a multi-currency account bill to QuickBooks and you've got a multi-currency bank account and they both align, so in this case I've got a USD account and a USD bill, then all I need to do, just like before, match it and it will match it accordingly. What is different though, is if you don't already have that transaction there. So just give it a couple of seconds to go through. On a bit of a go slow today. Making sure I've not got anything else slowing it down. But effectively, when it's finally got that done, you'll notice we lose the opportunity to actually go and match ourselves. So if I click into any transaction, notice how we're missing one of the options over here. We're missing the find match functionality. So it's preventing us from actually going through and finding a transaction in QuickBooks and be able to match against it, which is quite a useful feature within QuickBooks and something that you limit yourself to when you've got multi-currency. Furthermore, what we've also found is rules are not interacting as they should do within QuickBooks. So basically, when we normally do a rule, so if I jump into a rule at the top here, and I open up the rule that I've created regarding my USD account, then normally what we'd have the option to do is use automatically add in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, the automatically add section is a really useful feature where basically, as soon as it hits the bank account, you can make it so the data automatically goes into QuickBooks without you having to do anything. If you've got multi-currency turned on, you lose the functionality to do automatically add. So it's something to just be really aware of. You now can still apply a rule to it, but you'd have to go in and individually add the transaction. And the reason for that is because the way it interacts with multi-currency has changed a little bit. So now what happens is, before you can physically go in and add a transaction, so if I try and add this particular transaction here, it's going to come up with an error message. And what that error message says is basically you've got to go into the transaction and confirm you're happy with this exchange over here. Once you add it and add it again, it will then keep updating the exchange rate for you, which it used to do and which we're expecting it to do, depending on what the exchange rate is for that particular day. But it's that case now that you've got to go in and click on every transaction and individually add the transaction to it. Also, because we don't have that find match transfer, we're finding it tricky for us to easily go and put it against a bill that you might have outstanding, especially if you've got a bill that's in which is in a different currency. If that's the case, we go through this quite a lot in our advanced course, but it's something just to be worthwhile understanding. One thing we would highly recommend is transferring to a control account. So I've done a control account here, USD to current account. If you transfer back to a control account, what you'll find is you'll start opening up that functionality. So in here, if I was going to transfer this almost £1,000 of GDP over here, I record as a transfer and make sure I'm happy with it. Oh, chose the wrong account. I've got the control account, USD to GBP there. Transfer that over, and this time around, I'm saying I've got £1,000. I would record the transfer, and it's only now that I've recorded the transfer that I can start allocating it to the right transaction. So just as a really quick example, non-USD account. And if I have £1,000 that needs to be paid off and it's been paid off in USD, I can make a payment and I can make the payment against that new control account that I've created. What that will do for you once you press save and close is it just gives you that ability then to jump into that control account. And then you would have to write off if there's any differences. So in this case, I've got an £80 difference I would want to work out as an exchange gain or loss at some point. And that's where you've got to start thinking a little bit outside the rules of what we would normally do. So there are a few restrictions there, a few things to be mindful of. I did a whole video on this over on my YouTube channel, so do have a look at that if there's any more. And if it is something that we want to go into a lot more detail on here, do let us know, and we can make sure that we spend some more time on it. But the main thing to take away from this is there are a few restrictions, and we don't know if they're there forever. But at the moment, when you have a foreign currency bank account, you've got to be mindful of the way you deal with transactions. What do you think to that, Ash?
Yeah, thanks for that, Aaron. I was just having a bit of a think when you went through that, because probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was helping a company based in Switzerland that had a Switzerland bank account. They had US dollars, they had sterling, they had euro accounts. And I think that issue was then, I was having to deal with all of that a few years ago as I was thinking about it, whether they actually sort of rectified that, because that was a couple of years ago since I had to help that particular client, whether it was sort of corrected, and then the recent update has sort of re-triggered that issue again. I'm not sure, but I definitely remember, because they had a lot of foreign currency transactions, and it was quite painful at the time having to click inside each one. So anyone that has to deal with that, I definitely feel their pain there, because I've been there for sure.
Yeah, but we were definitely able to do auto rules to foreign currency accounts before, weren't we?
And we definitely had to find a match, as well.
Yeah, and find the match as well, yeah. So I think you're right. I think there was at some point, I do remember having to do that kind of extra click to make sure you're happy with the currency. But yeah, the find match disappearing is just, it's just an odd one, isn't it? I'm not 100% sure the reason for that.
Yeah, so that, I mean, it's almost like you currently, it seems to me that you don't have a choice. You've really got to use that controlled account workaround to be able to pay your bills off.
Yeah.
Or receive your payments against your customers without having to go in and do lots of other journals to correct the balances. But anyway, it's something definitely to think about.
Definitely. And Ash, haven't you got something to in the news section to talk about?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just, so if I share my screen, and this will come up, I've just noticed a little question actually pop up, and this may answer one of the questions on here as well. With regards to the new feature. And what is that sharing?
Yeah, just bringing it in now.
Cool. So yeah, we had a question about self-assessment with no detail appearing. So our first sort of autumn release. So when you're in the actual QuickBooks website, you've got this option, learner support and product updates, and all of the brand new product updates of most recent appear in here. And you can see there's 5 tabs that come across, income tax being the most recent update. So we'll start off with this income tax, and this is a fantastic new feature that's still currently in beta. So it was in QuickBooks Self-Employed for some time, and now it's just been updated into QuickBooks Online. Now, if a client, I should say, is flagged as a sole trader, then in the left-hand navigation, and in fact, if I just pop up, I've logged into the sample company. So within the left-hand navigation, what you'll find is this self-assessment appears as an option. So they have to be flagged as a sole trader. Now, Len's saying there that basically there's no data coming through at all. And Aaron spotted this a few weeks ago, in fact. One of the requirements before any data comes through is that you must either link your bank account to QuickBooks, or if you can't link your bank, you must at very least have a bank upload. So if I was to go to banking here, so in this sample company, we've got bank links. But even if you can't link your bank account, then use that option within there to actually manually upload. Use the option upload from a file. Now, if you've got a bank feed in place, or you've got an upload in a CSV or similar format, you will find that all of the profit and loss details will start to appear and populate that information that you'll have there within that self-assessment. I've not had a good chance to sort of play around with the self-assessment myself yet, but it's a really nice feature for sole traders. I'd still always recommend, so if anyone that's watching or listening to this session as maybe a sole trader without an accountant, I still recommend that you highly, seek accountancy advice so you can use this information to, get your self-assessment estimates, but I don't always sort of just take it as gospel, because, you really need to be an expert sometimes just to make sure that you are claiming for things that you should, and maybe you've not put too much, within your turnover, because it works both ways. You don't want to be declaring too much income into your business, so make sure it's checked fully if you are using that feature. So just coming back to my updates. So our income tax, then we've got the payroll updates. So we have the employee portal, which is coming to QuickBooks Online Standard Payroll. So this has only been available in the QuickBooks Online Advanced Payroll, but you can join the waiting list, so it's not available for everybody yet. Now, the great thing about this portal is that your employees don't then have to come to you to ask for a copy of their pay slip, their P60. They can just log in either with a mobile phone app or by logging in through the browser. They can download their pay slips themselves from there. So it is a really nice feature. And also within the QuickBooks Online Standard Payroll, you've got automatic tax code updates. So a feature, again, that was just within the Advanced Payroll, it's now got there, will automatically start updating employees' tax information. So the payroll in QuickBooks keeps into contact with the HMRC, and if a tax code change, each time you sort of put a submission through to HMRC, sort of looking at all the details that are there, and that should update that tax code for you. So do keep a lookout for that. And we can see we've got some automations coming in through our pensions. Again, there's links within here where you can look at more detail, and there's further integration from T-Sheets, so another Intuit-owned company. So we'll be able to record your time on your mobile phone, so record that time and automatically get converted into payroll. Have you had a chance to look at the T-Sheets integration yet, Aaron? I know it's something that's on your list.
Yeah, so we're looking to use T-Sheets in the practice. I've not been able to play around with the integration, but I saw one of the webinars they ran and kind of showed what the integration looks like, and it does look like it's going to come through quite nicely, which is great. One thing I'd say just extra on that portal though that you brought up, and I really do like the portal idea, because we use the advanced payroll for our practice. And one of the features that we use more than most is, it's great that they can grab themselves their pay slips and they can book time off and they can do things like that through there. It's fantastic. But also we found it even more useful the way that they can just go in, and when you take a new employee on, you just send them one link and they fill out the information for themselves. That whole self-provisioning and being able to get themselves all the information you need off them. Yeah, I think that's where you get kind of one of the really, really useful features of it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, so that saves the payroll admin person having to type in the name and address, the next of kin and all that sort of thing. I think the only thing that you can't do is put in the prior year pay information. I think that's the only thing that's withheld at the minute.
But if they've got the automatic tax code updates now, potentially in the future they can start bringing them P45 data in and stuff. That I know some other software have started to kind of play around with that, haven't they? So maybe that's kind of one of the next steps one day down the line.
Yeah, cool, nice. Yeah, that's a very good point. You should think HMRC basically has all the information, from what's been fired off from the previous employer with regards to PAYE and tax. So you think we should be able to just pick it up, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, that one. Cash flow. So if you've not used the cash flow tools yet, again, I will just pop back to my sample company. So within the dashboard of my sample company, right at the top, I won't at the moment have any sort of little cash flow graph. If that's something that you'd like to take a look at, then don't forget within your gear icon, you have in your company settings, you have QuickBooks Labs. And within QuickBooks Labs, you've got these potentially new features which have not been fully released. So you've got this cash flow widget, which you could enable. So you then have this additional graph that will appear at the top of your dashboard as you log in. Now, if I just click done on this one, see if it updates. So I could be sort of chancing it on the sample company. I could be taking a chance. Let's have a look. Oh, I think I might be in luck.
Yeah, it's looking like it.
So I should have this additional. Gone very, very slow.
At least it's not just my QuickBooks that's going to.
I should have this almost like a. There we go. So I'll have this additional sort of graph that will appear. I'll try to click to see the info. No, it's not. There we go. I'll have this little graph that appears for my cash flow. And then in addition to that, and this could be because it's a sample company, down the left-hand navigation, I'll have cash flow.
Yeah, it won't be on cash flow because we've got multi-currency there. So at the moment,
that's well done, Aaron. Yeah. So if you're not using multi-currency, then you'll be able to use the sort of cash flow forecast that will appear within your left-hand navigation. So I'll just come back to our products updates. We've also got these tagging options. So it's something we talked about in one of our episodes, probably about a month or so ago now. So you've got the options there of switching on these tags. So when you record transactions, you can add a little additional tag against it. There's links in there. You can learn more about tagging if that's something that you want to do when you're within QuickBooks. I'll just take us on to the last couple of tabs here. Payments, quite a big one here, as Aaron and I discussed last week when we were talking about what to sort of chat about today. Within QuickBooks Self-Employed, where I don't know if there's actually any apps that connect to QuickBooks Self-Employed, apart from now this one. So previously, if you wanted to collect PayPal payments, you had to use QuickBooks Online, the main product. But if you are using QuickBooks Self-Employed, then you've got the ability coming soon to be able to start receiving some payments via PayPal in there. And there is also some, some discounts on the PayPal charges at the moment. Anything to say on those, Aaron, at the minute?
Yeah, I think it's really good about the QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's almost like, and I'm surprised myself how many people use it, but it is something that gets used more often than not. And I think it's because QuickBooks do quite well in terms of kind of getting it out there with a viable product that can be really simple to use. People sometimes are using it in the wrong context, but you can understand why people are going for it because of the simplicity of it all. So adding that extra functionality to it is only gonna help use it. And I've even kind of myself had clients who've been like, oh, how do I enable it on QuickBooks Self-Employed? And originally I just assumed it would be already there. So like you said, it's great that they've started to open up that ecosystem so that it's starting to have at least some form of apps on there. And maybe that's an option for the future, that they could have a look at other apps going in there. Maybe not. I think it's probably a tall order to ask for, but it is good to see that there. Curiously though, there's no iZettle integration there, which is their new big kind of payment option, isn't it, that they're pushing at the moment. That's not brought its way through, but yeah, it's probably too much to ask for. And I probably would suggest anyone who is looking at kind of retail environment, you probably are better off on the full version of QuickBooks anyway for that one, aren't you?
Yeah, I definitely agree on that, Aaron. Another one while we're on this page, there's a sales overview coming soon. It should actually, you already see it within your QuickBooks. If I just flick back again to my sample company I've got open, you've got sales. This was definitely here the other day. So
yeah, got off mine as well.
It's disappeared from the sample company. Okay, so I won't be able to display it. But from within the Sales tab, you may find, depending on when you log in, that you have this additional option called Sales Overview, which will give you basically, like it says on the tin, really, an additional overview of your sales. But also, if you've only just started using QuickBooks, I think there's like additional little pointers of when you need to create your first invoice and other little options in there. I think that's right, Aaron, isn't it? Where they'll sort of tell you basically what you need to do really to get yourself started. So that's your sales overview. And then our last tab within our product release is our month-end review, which is a fantastic tool for accountants to be able to actually review your product and product and loss, I nearly said profit and loss, balance sheet, and actually set up some little tasks of what you should and shouldn't be doing. I've just cut a bit of a blank on this one, Aaron, because I said it's only available to accountants. Did this actually appear for non-accountants as well, or was it strictly accountants?
Yeah, and it's one of those where we kind of would like it to be for non-accountants as well, but at the moment it's purely just on the accountant section.
Yeah. You've got the Performance Center. Again, I think this is purely for accountants as well, because I'm logged in as both sides, and I've only seen it when I've been logged in as an accountant. So as an accountant, gives you the option of looking at some reports with an additional view. And then we've got the mileage tracking. So mileage tracking at the moment has only been available if you are the master administrator of a QuickBooks account. You're the only person that can actually track mileage against that account. But coming soon should have the ability to actually add additional users. So if you employ a few people and you would like them to be able to monitor their mileage within your QuickBooks file, that should be on its way to you. And so look out for that one. I did also spot when I was logged in the other day having a future availability of being able to actually upload a CSV file of recorded mileage. So that could be handy if you have been making a log of your mileage, maybe on Excel, and you wanted to upload it into QuickBooks. That's something that's on its way.
And they've promised actual integration, haven't they, with the product in terms of actually being able to post the results, which will be a blessing when it finally comes up.
So so at the moment it's really just a note of how many miles you've done. So to be able to convert that into a journal as well would be great. And then you've got this filtering option. So if you do log in as an accountant, where you land on your accountant dashboard with all of your clients, there's a new filtering option in there where you can actually look at files that relate to just a particular manager. And at the moment, I think it's labeled as a lead. So who is the lead on this client? You can sort it by that. So there are our main sort of updates for autumn. We have sort of pretty much gone over those in the last few episodes, but just a reminder where you find those. You log into quickbooks.co.uk, and if you go to this Learn and Support tab, you'll find under QuickBooks, it's on QuickBooks Payroll, this one, but if you go into Product Updates under Learn and Support, then you'll be able to find everything you need within there under those 5 tabs at the moment. All right, Aaron. So, Google Sheets.
Yeah, this is a really good add-on basically that I found. I wanted to share it with everyone. Basically, what it's all about is the fact that we've been, especially in our firm, we've been really experimenting with being able to get data from QuickBooks, and especially when it's all about data that you might want to do with multiple companies. So say if you've got a group structure or you've got multiple different companies that you're trying to, look at benchmarking or any kind of stuff like that. And there has always been great reporting software out there where you can start connecting different accounts together for grouping structures, and you can be really, really clever with it. But the kind of the restriction of that is you're always kind of held back to what their templates are and what their solutions are. And we've been really looking for a solution where we can get hold of client data outside of QuickBooks itself, and that it can automate and it can bring that data in. And the software we found that's doing the best for our ability is this software here that works directly with Google Sheets. So Google Sheets itself has been a kind of solution where we as an accounting firm, we've started to look at more and more and more over the last 2 or 3 years. It's kind of, we will never get rid of Microsoft Excel. Excel will always be there for us. It's something we're always going to use. But we find that Google Sheets is a great complementary to that. And there's always situations where one is more powerful than the other. So what we would kind of suggest to look at here is that under the tools section, or the add-on section, should I say, and this is all through the App Store when you first want to find the connection and go through from there. But you'll notice there's an option that I've put in called GACON for QuickBooks. And basically what this guy or this solution is all about is you pay 1 monthly subscription, and it's really, really low. And once you've got that subscription in, and there's even a free trial you can play around with, but once you've got that subscription in, you can then connect all of your different clients throughout the whole of your practice. And basically, it's as simple as you create a new Google spreadsheet, you go to QuickBooks Sign In, and then you're just presented with your normal sign into QuickBooks app sheet. So it's as simple as normally going in, signing yourself up and getting yourself in. Once you've gone through there and you've got yourself signed up, I've got some test data here, but basically the add-on page then opens up to all the data that you've got inside that particular client. So here I've got the opportunity to bring in some accounting reports. So I'm going to jump in here, press the Get Reports. And from there, I can go and choose through templates that have already been set up for me. So maybe I want to have a look at, say, the trial balance as of now, and I want to bring that information in. And then I've got all these different options I can look through. So I can look at different date ranges, different reports. I can filter them if I need to, change the name. I can go in and say, well, how do I want the report to look and feel, and where do I want it to start? And then the really powerful bit is when you want it to be refreshed. So you have the opportunity here to go in and select what frequency. So do you want it hourly, daily, weekly, monthly? And what we tend to do is do daily around midnight, and then every midnight all the data just refreshes and starts coming back in again. So once I press execute, as simple as that, it goes, talks to QuickBooks, it goes, creates a template for you, and what it does is it starts bringing that data in. And again, something is on Ghost. I think it's StreamYard, isn't it, that's slowing us down here. But that's as simple as that. Basically, what it's done is it's brought that data in for me. Again, I can change these formats and the way the information comes through and all that sort of stuff. But effectively, I've got this data here that I can now manipulate. And as I said, if you've got kind of a group structure or something like that, you can be really powerful in the way that you've done it. So I've got my trial balance here, I've got my profit and loss account here, and I can see all these different figures that are coming through. And, you know, Google Sheets has started to become as strong or as powerful as Excel in terms of complex formulas. So I can be as straightforward as just going, right, let's do a unique, for example. So unique is quite a new formula that's starting to come through, and I can just see all my different income transactions like that, press return, and it will always update all my different income ones. And then I can start putting in if formulas or VLOOKUP formulas or sum if formulas, however complicated you want it to be. But then you can start referencing it to multiple different companies, and you can start building that structure up. We at Boffix, we've got a group structure for our group of Boffix companies, and it used to be a good 4, 5, 6 hours a month I would spend actually compiling the data, putting the data in, getting it all nice and tidy, and putting it all through for our data and stuff. Now with this, it's always updated for me each and every day, and it will just keep updating and keep updating and keep updating. So it's a huge time saving there that you can take advantage of. Furthermore, if you kind of look into the add-ons and look at the options you've got here, you even have the option to bring down accounting data itself. So you can bring journal entries down, you can bring bills or expenses. There's a whole range of data that you can interact with if you need to. So you can really start looking at getting data in from the company itself. So you can start bringing in journals and expenses and all manner of different types of data that come down. But the kind of bit where it gets even more kind of clever, if you want to start playing around with it, is the option to even upload that data as well. So you can start manipulating the data in Google Sheets and then just sending it back into QuickBooks. So it gives you opportunity to automate things or to bring data in, or however you want to bring that data. And we've been kind of playing around with things like Zapier and items like that, where we can start being really clever in the way that we get data into it. And instead of relying on the third-party solution just doing it all for you, you can start thinking about looking at ways in which you can kind of get it so it's down to your own templates or your own ways of doing it, or however it's going to be. And that just gives us that further opportunity. One thing we've also started doing at Bofix, or at least started to build as a kind of a proof of concept, is that we're going to start looking at when we interact with client data. So we use Google Sheets as a way of dishing out tasks and dishing out work that needs to be done. So, you know, when it comes to checklists and things like that, well, when we do checklists now, we get it so that the data automatically comes in from that particular client. And what that means is that when you're asking a junior member of staff, or however you're doing it, to check the director's loan account or check the debtor's account or whatever it's going to be, you can have that actual amount sat there for them to be able to agree against, or be able to look into more detail whether it's going to do. So what you should be able to do is make it so you're making it easier and you're making it more kind of structured in terms of putting controls in place and stuff like that. So yeah, we're really kind of, this has been one of those add-ons where we found it really, really useful for us. I don't know if it'll tell me the price. I've completely forgot how much the price was. But yeah, from memory, it's £20 a month, £30, something like that. But that's for all of your companies to be connected and all of them to go through on there. So yeah, it's a really simplistic approach and really simplistic kind of idea, but I think it's quite a powerful one. What do you think to that one, Ash?
I think that's great, Aaron. The price, for one, is pretty good. Very, very reasonable, that sounds to me. And one thing I was just thinking about there was, so, I mean, I'm not overly familiar with Google Sheets. I mean, I've used it a little, but say I set up a file like that in Google Sheets, and I've got everything coming through and I need to. Can I then share the link to that Google Sheets file to whoever else would like to use it? So if I said, you know, I'm guessing the answer is, I saw you nod your head. So if, you know, there's a director of a business and I've just given him the link to that particular Google Sheets file, he could just log in and look at that link to see, you know, whatever he wants to look at. So without going to QuickBooks maybe to look at a report, you've built a specific one for them there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where kind of Google Sheets first started off, is its like powerhouse, if you like, of its way of being kind of relevant, because it was obviously up against Excel, and Excel's always going to be the one that has all the most, you know, fancy tools and fancy everything else that goes with it. And it wasn't on parity in terms of kind of features and everything else. But what it does have is collaboration and sharing capabilities from day one. So because it is effectively just a cloud-based solution, it is QuickBooks, you know, it is that cloud-based, it's all in a browser. Up here, you have the option to share. And mine's a little bit more restricted because I've got what's called a commercial license as opposed to a, you know, your personal license. But I can just change it so that anyone, anywhere, can access it, not just people within the Bofix organization at this point. And then it's literally as simple as you say, how much do they want? Can they comment on it? Can they edit it? So how much, what their rights are, basically. You copy the link and it's over to them and they can open it up on their side. And what you'll see is when they're in the solution is you'll have their name pop up here and their version of their thing will be going around and you can all work on it on the same time. So it's got all that power of having that collaboration and being able to kind of work with the data.
Cool. And that where you mentioned a minute ago about uploading the data. So I'm guessing, is this similar to, you know, Transaction Pro that we've used before, Cessant, Excel importer and deleter? So how much can you do? I mean, could I, you know, like I can with Cessant, download 1,000 transactions that have been imported by mistake, and then hit the button to delete them all, and then send that message back to QuickBooks.
Yeah, exactly. It works exactly the same principle. You literally choose what data it is, what type of data you want. So you can go through and do kind of general expenses or general transactions, or if you know that it's just expenses that you want to interact with, and then you choose what type of transactions and what items you want to come through. You can set all kind of manner of templates and stuff if you need to. And literally you press execute. What that will do then is it'll bring down the data that's already in there. So I've only got one item in this particular case, in this particular date range. And then you can edit this accordingly, excuse me. And then as soon as you're happy with it, you upload the accounting data back to it. And you can set that to be automatic as well. So you can set it so that you can have this data being brought in from another package or however you want to do it. So we've been really hot at the moment of putting like eBay managed payments into QuickBooks because there isn't really a solution out there. So what we're looking at is exploring the fact that you could just get eBay managed payments to dump the data in here for us, and then we bring that into QuickBooks on behalf of people. So you just kind of start opening up those little powers and those little options for people.
Cool. Like it.
So really powerful. And again, because of the price where you're just paying one subscription for all of your clients, it just makes it really simple to implement.
Yeah, I mean that's how it should be really, because yes, if you're new to it, you're going to have to invest a bit of time probably learning how to do certain things. But once you've done that and you're spending 30, even if it was 40 quid a month, you only need to get one client set up on this, don't you? This sort of thing. You get one, and then it's paid for. Basically, pays for itself.
Yeah. Well, as I said in my intro, 6 hours of mine saved already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once that's exactly what it's all about, and it's saving a bit of time.
Yeah. So no, really, really impressed with it. I'm saying this. I'm pretty sure I found it on the App Store. Let me just make sure it is there before. But if not, it might have been the Google App Store. But if I just go to apps.com, so anyone who doesn't know, apps.com is where you'll find all the apps for QuickBooks. Make sure you're on the UK one. And if I just put Google in, see, look, yeah, here it is, Giacom, it's called. So it's exactly how it says here, and pricing wise, $29.99 USD.
Cool.
Which works out less than 30 quid at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, very reasonable.
So yeah, and the fact that you can have it automatically putting the information in, just makes it really powerful for us. And the more you play around with, if you're not comfortable in using Google Sheets, I promise you, if you know your way around Excel, you'll find it really straightforward.
All right.
Wonderful. And I think you had something to show us as well, didn't you?
So yeah, I'll try and be fairly quick on this to see if we've got any couple of questions that maybe we might want to help with. So let me share my screen. Just as I said that, just chucked me out of my QuickBooks file.
It's always the case, isn't it?
Just make sure I'm back in because I've been out for a while. Just before I do share my screen, because there's nothing more annoying than watching somebody try to log in. I'm just going to make sure I click in a couple of things. Just as I assumed, something came up that says something wasn't quite right, so it's chucked me out fully. Let me go back in, and then I'll get myself shared. So this next little sort of tip, before I get my screen shared, so just take this time to log in, is all about basically your director's loan. And just get myself logged in.
And while that's going, if you do have any more questions, we've seen there's a couple that have come through, and we'll make sure before we end today that we just answer those questions come in. But if you do have any more questions, don't forget just to drop them in the comments box on whichever platform you're watching on. At the moment, we're on 6 different platforms, so
Okay, right there.
Excellent. Brilliant. Okay.
Okay, director's loans. So usually director's loans, if you prepared statutory sets of accounts, if the company owes that director money, and that's quite often the case if the company's been set up by the director, they might have injected a lot of cash to get them going, and that director is a liability of the company, gradually or eventually that money will get paid off. So in this chart of accounts, what I've got is I've actually got two accounts for my director's loan. I've got a liability, which is where director's loans normally sit, but I've also got one set up as a bank account. Why do you think we've got one of those? Why we've got one of those, Aaron?
Well, is it to make it more easy to interact with by any chance?
Correct. To make it easier for ourselves when we want to record some payments that perhaps the director has made. So if you record some expenses, maybe out-of-pocket expenses, if you're using the new button and you've created an expense, it means that if you're recording that cost, so whether you've got some traveling expenses or whatever it may be, you can record it to an account called Ash Director's Loan. And it will be exactly the same if you've used this, snap a receipt. When you then review that receipt as it comes through into your sort of receipts area, you can choose whether you put receipts on as bills, whether you put receipts on as expenses. So if you do put a receipt on as an expense, then you can make sure you're using that particular bank account. One extra little, another little tip that actually I'll bring within here when it comes to directors recording their expenses. So a couple of businesses that I've helped. So if they are using that snapper receipt, sometimes what I'll say to them is that I know it's a receipt that you've paid out by cash, but actually put it on as a bill. And the reason why I might say that is because they might have a company debit card, they might have a company or the personal credit card, and they don't always remember, or it's not always clear from the actual receipt how they actually paid it. Did they pay it personally by cash, by their personal credit card, American Express, or did it go out of the company debit card? 6 months have gone, they're clueless, they don't know how it was paid. So if you do actually put it on as a bill and it's an outstanding balance, then when you actually upload those banking transactions, it will create a match where you can then match it as paid. So just an extra little tip in there for you. Sometimes it's worth creating a supplier called expenses paid, or cash expenses. Now, if I were to look at my, my balance sheet, it would show there £18,000 owed by the director, or owed back to the director. My balance sheet is also showing there's a bank balance with a negative value in there of £183.24. It could be that at the end of the financial year, the end of that quarter, I might look through my suppliers and find, why have I got all of these suppliers outstanding? And again, it could be, so I'll sort this by open balance. I'll pick a couple. Let's say these uniforms. There's £400 owing. I've run some reports. The director has come back to me and says, no, I paid that on my personal credit card. So again, I'll just want to clear them off. So I'll just click make payment, and you can use the pay bills option as well. And I'll say, actually, they've all been paid from that director's loan bank account, and I'll use today's date. So let me just click save and close. Now, if I do come into my dashboard, now any bank account that is in use, in your dashboard, they'll appear with a value against it. So I can see, in fact, that my Ash Director's Loan is appearing there as a negative value. £705.85. We don't actually want that value there now. It's come to the end of the year, the end of the quarter, so I'll probably just wipe that or adjust it now to my director's loan. So I could pop in a little journal. So let me put in a journal entry. So in fact, I can use a transfer. So 705.85. Now, I am in US dollars on this account. My home currency is actually US dollars.
I was wondering why it was all
yeah, because I did a demo in US dollars the other day. So I can, and the good thing about using this transfer is before I put the entry in, I can actually see what that balance is. So let me just put in there 705.85. I'll just leave that with today's date, and I'll just put to adjust expenses paid. So now I'll just save and close. And what I'll find is that now my Ash Director's loan balance is back to zero. So I've done a little bit of tidying up there. So I'm using that at bank just to quickly mark expenses as paid or mark suppliers as paid. But I don't want to leave it there with a balance unless I could reimburse that director. But in this instance, I've just made an adjustment to the director's loan. Now, if I do look at the balance sheet for that director's loan, we just come down, change that to today's date. So our director's loan bank account is zero. I come down into my liabilities. My director's loan as a liability is showing there as a balance. Now, regularly, my director might want to see that report. How much does the company still owe me? So I can just click on it from the balance sheet. At the moment, it's just looking at a custom range. I'll just change it to all dates, but don't forget you can set it as last month, this year to date. Now, if I look at that director's loan report as it is, it looks a little bit messy, a little bit untidy. So this is where we could just quickly customize this and save it. So from this screen, I'm just going to customize and take out any columns that I don't actually need. So I'll choose to customize and choose to change these columns. So change columns. So anything that's in use has got a tick in the box. I'm going to remove the ticks that I don't need. I'm just going to have a date, basically memo description. And what I want is a debit and credit, not just a single value. So I'll take the amount out. If I come down a little bit, we've got debit and credit. If they're not in the right order, I just hover over that little grid box and then I can drag that down. So now I've got the 5 columns that I need. That's all that I want. I'll click run the report on that now. So now I've got a report that looks a little bit better. I'll just change the title by clicking in there. And I could change that date to, let's say, this year to date. So whenever it's run, it's going to show from this particular year to date. So now I've made those changes, I'll save it. And don't forget, so I can choose to save it to groups and share it with others. I'm just going to save it as is, just for speed here. So once I've got that saved, any report that you have saved after you've customized it, it's going to be in your reports and it will show in your custom reports area. So there's my director's loan, which I can click on at any time. So that's great as it is, but what is even better is that I can choose now to edit that report. When I choose to edit, I can turn on an email schedule. So I can set this to run every month to the director's loan, to the director's email address. I'll just create that, made it one. with a little bit of blurb that says what this is as a title. Why am I sending it? Please see your director's loan. If you've got any transactions that you're not sure of, you don't agree with, please let me know. We can make some adjustments. If you send it as it is, it'll be in PDF format. If you would like that director to make some changes, or advise you to make some changes, put it in Excel, and then in that little bit of blurb, I've attached it in Excel. Anything that you don't agree with, please download the Excel document, highlight it, send it back to me, and we can make some adjustments if we need to. So save and close, and now you've got that monthly report being sent out to the director, so they won't have any surprises. When it comes to the end of the year, their director's loan account has already been reviewed. What do you think of that one, Aaron?
I love that, especially that last bit about getting it to a report and you kind of sending it as ownership, basically, of the director and passing it over to them to kind of review it. And I love how you've also said that you've made it neater and the report and made it more. And to me, that looks very much like a Sage report there. So we won't dwell on it too much, but basically replicate
that. Well, I'm not going to. I don't use Sage. So that's just some sort of coincidence. Yeah. So
yeah, I love that. I love that tip. And all I'd say is, I can definitely see why you've transferred it from the cash account to the current account, to the creditor's account. But if these are your books at the end of the day, so if you feel and you don't need to, I would just leave them in the cash account there. Yes, technically it's not in the right place on your balance sheet, but at least you've got a balance you can see every time you go into your dashboard, haven't you? So yeah, really love that tip.
Yeah, I agree, Aaron. I mean, it's really more of the accountant entry that might change that. And just like I've just clicked on that value there, they could have clicked on the same value and just left it in the cash and created the report in the same way. So definitely, whether you want to use one or two, down to that one. And I guess before I got to do that, I thought, actually, your little Google Sheets, you could set up one of these, I'm guessing, within your Google Sheets now, and then get the director to have a link to their director's loan through Google Sheets all of the time. And
yeah, great idea.
But I don't know, can you automate those Google Sheets to be sent out, a little reminder, just say, review your director's loan?
Yeah, no, you can definitely do that, and that's a great idea, because then you've got that option there. You could even do it on here where they've got both. You can send it as an Excel a PDF document, and also a Google Sheets element to it as well, and they can choose which one they interact with. Do they click on the link or do they click on PDF, whichever works for them. So I love that idea. I think it's really useful. And as well, if you are not a limited company and you've got a sole trader, feel free to call this drawings instead of director's loan or personal use, whatever. Again, these are your books, so call them whatever makes sense to you, but put them in there. Your accountant might not be exactly happy every single year because they've got to go through splitting between drawings and capital introduced, but that's not your issue, is it? So
no, I couldn't agree more, Aaron. Yeah. And what I always say on these things is that you can never review things enough. So I know we've got that new feature that's just come in, the
month-end review.
Well, yeah, that as well. But what I was thinking was the self-employment tax.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So yes, so as I said, yes, people can start clicking on that to perhaps see the estimate of their tax, but it's only as good as the data that it's pulled through from your profit and loss and your balance sheet. So if you've not really checked your profit and loss reports properly, then your tax return isn't going to be what it needs to be, which is why, some people might go up in arms, to say, oh, I don't want my clients to look on that. Well, I'm afraid you should be reviewing your clients' accounts every month.
Exactly.
In one sort of way or another. That's how I used to do it when I was in practice. Even if I wasn't, strictly doing management reports, I would be constantly keeping an eye on what's in there, because at the end of the day, it's going to be making my job easier. When I come to do a tax return at the end of the year, I know pretty much that the records are there and I can get it done quickly. I haven't got to send, 30 or 40 emails trying to get to the the end result. The job should be half done. Anyway, I sort of took us slightly over there a bit. Have we got a couple of questions?
Yeah, let's get these questions done, because I know some of them are quite time sensitive. So I'm just going through the questions now just to find them. So just the first one that I know we did cover it, and we've already looked at it. It was all about the fact that the self-employed wasn't, or the tax return option wasn't bringing in the information for this particular viewer. But actually, it seems like if I just find the response back again, but it actually seems like they had already linked their bank account and the files were still not bringing data in. So that's a bit of a worry then. All I can say on this one is that we'll that's the sort of thing we need to get feedback over to them straight away. We thought, or we've certainly from our testing found that as soon as we connected the bank account, it was starting to bring the data in. But it could be a case that that's forced the data to go in. So if you already had a bank account connected and then you've put it on, maybe it's not there. Now, maybe trial connecting a second bank account or something, see if that throws it in or whatever it's going to be. But it does seem like that seems to be the case from the limited testing we've done. But yeah, overall, let's get some feedback over to them. Well, I'll definitely put some feedback my end, because that's something we're definitely going to be utilising and looking at. So yeah, thanks for that, and hopefully that's something that'll get fixed soon.
Yeah, I guess maybe they could just if they've got to add a contra bank account and just upload it, and almost like an empty CSV file, or upload a CSV but don't do anything with it, because maybe that might just trigger something in the background.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? It's one of those where it seems like that's the issue, but yeah, it's one of those where sometimes I think these products get released without, because this never appeared in QuickBooks Labs or anything, so it's never had full-blown testing. So I think sometimes we just have to accept that there's a few bugs here and there in them. So hopefully we'll get that sorted. Next question from Leanne says, so very, very particular, this one. Jack called me to disconnect to the bank and PayPal account, so I was unable to reconnect them. I had to put correct date rather than suggest one, which you've downloaded all transactions. So to give context of what this issue is, and this is something I think a lot of people need to be really aware of at the moment, and that's regarding your bank accounts, because we mentioned this a few times, but it's all about open banking. And one of the things, or one of the issues that people have found, is that when you move from the old screen scraping solution, so when you used to connect your bank accounts together, compared to this new open banking solution, if you start from scratch now, you'll have no problems whatsoever. But if you have what I would class as a legacy connection, so if it was connecting the old way, then you actually have to disconnect completely your connection for QuickBooks and then reconnect it again. That's the only way that you're able to actually move from the old style of connecting your bank to the new open banking compliant way of doing it. Now, it is frustrating you've got to do that, but you've physically got to disconnect it fully to reconnect back on the new one, because what's happened is anything that's not open banking compliant has been forced to stop working. So you're not bringing your data in, you're not bringing that the data through into QuickBooks, and all that sort of data is basically just not coming through. And this particular issue here is all basically about when you do connect a bank account, or when you do disconnect a bank account, QuickBooks is clever enough to kind of know how many transactions it got to. So if you do then reconnect the same account to it and it's got duplicate data, even if you say connect me back to the first day of the year and you've already got data coming in for like the first 6 months, then QuickBooks is clever enough to go, right, I don't need to bring that data in, it's already there. I need to start from this date and bring the rest in. Have you experienced that, Ash, at all? Or
yeah, I mean, I've been sort of pretty lucky. I've not had any, problems touch wood with the open banking, but I have had to, switch from HSB legacy banking to the new version of Lloyd's from legacy, I thought it was sort of fairly well known that you had to sort of do that disconnect in chart of accounts, but perhaps it's not always that clear on the messages that come up.
No, and I think that's one thing where I think people feel like it should be automated, and you can kind of understand why from people. They're like, well, I've already got my bank connected, so why do? But you have to do that whole disconnect. And even if you're going from HSBC old to HSBC new, you've got to disconnect fully and start reconnecting, and you'll know that you're in that new environment, if you like, because it seems that every one of them has like a new connection page to the bank and a new, there's more kind of a more modern way of connecting to it. So yeah, it is something that we'll make sure that that people need to be aware of and go from there. But yeah, the big thing as well is if you do connect a bank account, or if you've lost connection and you reconnect a bank account up, QuickBooks is clever enough not to duplicate the data. It will always go to a point where it's last downloaded and then fill in the gaps basically from there. A couple of more questions and then we will wrap up. So again from Leanne, is regular Go cardless payment on my bank account for QuickBooks? Just call bank to check and they cannot tell me. From your point of view on that one, basically Go cardless is a solution for collecting direct debit. So it's all going to be based on who set up that direct debit. For example, Boffix uses direct debit, so it could be Boffix charging you for QuickBooks itself. So that's probably what it would be related to. But what you do need to do is just have a look at the Go cardless functionality itself and look at the bank detail in there, and that will tell you who that's paying to from there. So it could be anything that it's related to. You just need to look on the Go cardless solution itself, and it will tell you where that payment's done.
Just coming back to on that one, Aaron, it is a good question from Leanne actually, because so one of my clients, they have several suppliers that charge them via Go cardless.
Yeah.
And what happens if you have that standard Go cardless subscription? It literally just says Go cardless, and you don't have a clue who you're paying. It's not unless you have a sort of higher level subscription with Go cardless that you can actually say, when you take my money, can you put Go cardless dash and your name? So sometimes that's the only way you'll know is to actually try to find look through your supplier history to see who have you paid in the past that has got the same value. So that can be slightly annoying. That's a bit of a Go. That's a bit of a Go cardless quirk, really. Yeah,
it is. I mean, I know in the detail, if you really dive deep, you can kind of get some indication of it, but it isn't what you call it at all. It isn't very obvious as who it is. It's all based on their ID and all this, that, and the other. The other thing I would say about Go cardless though is what they're very good at is emails. So basically, from a customer point of view, you'll get an email to say that the money's coming out. You'll get an email when it's come out, and then those emails, it will tell you what it's related to. So when you do sign up to QuickBooks, when you do sign up to Go cardless, you do get you have to put an email address in, and I would just basically forward all that information on to whoever's doing your books, or in your case, have a look and use that email chain as a way of doing it. But yeah, I agree, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's and the more prevalent that Go cardless gets and the more popular it gets, it's just going to get more and more tricky for people to figure it out.
Yeah, I've been there because we need to wrap it up, but if you get two suppliers that happen by chance to charge exactly the same amount, and I've had that, and they both come to Go cardless, it's a nightmare.
Definitely. Leanne asks, can we do a video about it? Of course we can. So I'll make sure that on the I'm Patrick QuickBooks chat, we'll have a video about disconnecting, reconnecting, and how the data will go in. And yeah, definitely must be right. First Direct's getting a load of calls about it. It's frustrating. So again, for you personally, just refer to your emails. So you should be getting emails. If you're not getting emails, then do shout up about that one to whichever suppliers you're using it with, because you want to making sure you get the emails come through. Brilliant. Okay, Ash. What's have we set a date for the next one? I can't remember now.
I meant to write. I've got penciled in 2 weeks from today is Tuesday the 17th of November.
Brilliant.
So We should be back. So that'd be 4 p.m. GMT, 10 a.m. US Central Time on the 17th of November.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just a quick one, though, from my point of view, if you are listening via a podcast, don't forget to follow us on the Facebook page. So QB Labs on the Facebook page is the best place to get information on when we go live and everything else that goes with it. And then, Ash, I think that's pretty much it, isn't it, from us?
Yeah, so that's goodbye from me then.
Goodbye from me, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time, isn't it? Can't believe it. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye.